Today I'd like to discuss some of the common and some of the uncommon subtropicals we can grow here in the California Bay Area. One of the popular plants amongst quite a few people, whether they're rare fruit growers or just plain regular old home gardeners, is the avocado. This little guy I got right next to me here is one of the fairly recent dwarfs. There have been a few dwarf avocados over time, but this one, named Holiday, is the newest one that I've seen around available in the shops. Holiday appears to be suitable for cultivation here in the Bay Area. Generally, avocados are extremely tall plants, and so the traditional varieties that work well here, like Bacon, Zutano, Mexicola, Stewart, these are all plants that will grow over 20 feet high, and they have a pretty good sized spread. Holiday, on the other side, this little guy here, is a very, very dwarf plant. It practically doesn't want to stand off the ground at all. What I've noticed is that Holiday likes to grow like creeping rosemary. I have to put it up on a steel pipe, this right here, and actually anchor this thing to keep it from cruising all over the place, because the branches are literally hanging to the ground. It's interesting because it's the smallest plant around, but it makes one of the biggest avocados of any varieties we have here. This fruit I have in my hand, probably weighing out at somewhere right around a pound. As you can see here, Holiday is pretty substantial fruit. There's a hand size there. This is a large piece. The plant seems a little sparse to bear as of yet in my garden, but it is hardy enough. The stem, as you can see on this one, is still pretty green, and so it's not quite ready for picking yet. I'm waiting for that to yellow a bit. So essentially, that fruit is not full size. The beauty of the Holiday plant comes in the fact that it is really dwarf. This thing just hangs down all over the place here. It's quite cold hardy. A lot of varieties of avocados in this area will freeze during the winter. The popular Hass, for instance, not a good choice for the Bay Area. It really is too cold here for that plant in general. I don't find it worth the effort. I've had them around and they get damaged. But you can see here that the new growth on the top of Holiday shows no damage after we had a pretty frosty winter. It wasn't extremely cold here, but we had repeated frosts, one after the other, and the plant really looks very good. So it's a hardy plant. It's a small growing plant. Biggest problems you may find is pollination. I believe this one is an A pollinator. And here's an example of one of the very reliable avocados in our area. This is Bacon. Bacon is a bee pollinizer. It pairs with Holiday. It will also pair with Hass or with Mexicola or Stewart. It's an excellent avocado for this climate. It's very, very hardy. The fruit is, well, at least slightly above average quality. The downside is it's a big tree. As you can see from back here, this Bacon grows into be a really, really large tree. Right there in the foreground, though, is Holiday, and so you can see that that is a really small tree. These are Avocado Flowers. They're fairly inconspicuous until they start raining down all over the ground. Then you're going to notice them because they make quite a mess. Avocado trees are one of the messiest plants I can think of on earth. They really, really, really make a lot of trash. On the ground here underneath the tree, you can see that I really never pick up a single leaf underneath an avocado, and we've got foliage everywhere. Keeping the debris on the soil is a really good idea because their roots are shallow. They're subject to root rots, and they're really better if they're growing almost above the mineral soil in the yard and underneath the mulch that's beneath the tree. Aside from allowing all the debris to hit the ground, putting down about an additional 200 pounds of organic matter a year is also a really good idea. As I said, flowers are A and B types. Some are receptive in the morning to pollination, others are receptive in the afternoon. The Bacon is fairly well adapted in this climate, so it will pollinate some flowers during the course of any given day, but it'll pollinate a whole lot more of them if you have an A avocado in the mix. A good pairing with Bacon, for instance, would be Mexicola or Stewart. I recommend those. Bananas are another one of the good subtropicals here for this location. They're actually more of a tropical plant, but because some varieties are quite hardy, they will do well here in the Bay Area. There's a clump up top over there I really need to take down. They're quite ripe. I sort of overlooked them for a while. This is the April Fool's Day here, the first day of April in the Bay. We're now in spring. The plants are beginning to push brand new leaves up over the top of the canopy. You can see the old leaves were burned, but the brand new leaf is coming up and out of the middle of it. Just because your bananas take some frost around here in the winter time, you don't want to go cutting them back, because if you cut them back, you'll start the cycle all over again. You'll never get fruit. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't see as much fruit around here as they could. I'm climbing around up in the banana plants here, trying to decide which one of these clumps of fruit are ready for picking. Well, this stalk here is quite promising. It's got a real good fruit count on it. Most of the fruit looks like it's filled out pretty good. Right there at my thumb, you can see the emerging leaf out of the center of this frozen stalk. That is going to become the foliage for this plant this year. If we allow this to continue, there is a flower bud embedded inside the stalk that will eventually turn into a stem of bananas this year. And so cutting back your frosted stems in the Bay Area is a really bad idea if you want to see any bananas come. The flower is actually inside the stem here, someplace or another, and it's well protected. These stems are full of water. The water holds a lot of heat over a cold night, and it actually shelters the bananas, which are hidden inside. The larger and older these plants become, the more suckers they produce, the thicker the plants get, and the more safety and shelter there is inside the plants. Over here you can see there's a hand of bananas that was overwintered on the stem. It shows a little bit of burnishing on some of the tips there from maybe some cold that settled on them, but I'd say most of those bananas are fully edible. The best bananas we pick here do come spring through fall, although we often get overwintered stalks that are just fine. We can take them down in the spring. Bananas are a lily. They're not a shrub or a tree. You can see here that these stalks on a banana are massive. So there's a lot of water in there. It's an insulator. The water holds heat on cold nights. Also, I believe that bananas burn their sugar across the night, and this particular variety is ice cream. Ice cream seems to burn sugar really, really deep into the fall and early winter, and so it'll be 5 to 10 degrees warmer on a banana stem than it is in the outside surrounding air here. So the burning of the sugar during the nightfall actually heats the plant, and so for the first few frosts of the winter, ordinarily there's no damage to ice cream because it's burning sugars and literally heating itself. The final tree that I'd like to discuss is the white sapote, the Casamaroa edulis. Sapote is a subtropical fruit from Central America and southern Mexico. It's in the citrus family, believe it or not, although it doesn't taste much like citrus at all. It's soft, squishy, very, very sugary on the inside. The plants grow very large. This one right here is 15 years old from a seed. It's a pretty sizable thing. It's been pruned back to the concrete wall back there twice in 15 years. They're quick growing. They make good shelter plants. They produce thousands of pounds of fruit a year in 2 waves like a lemon tree does. The biggest problem is they're hard to pick. They're terrible to ship. I think it's the major reason we don't see more of them in the marketplaces, is because they're so perishable, and you really have to go up there into the tree and go after each one. If you pull it down with a fruit picker, you're going to bruise and gouge it because they are so soft. It's been my observation that white sapote is about as hardy as Eureka lemon in the climate. Sapote grows fairly easy from its seeds. There's 2 right here. They kind of look a little bit like great big orange or lemon seeds, which they are, rotacea, so that the comparison is appropriate. they're reasonably easy to grow, but there is variability in the seedlings. This tree I have here is a seedling grown tree. Came from a really good one over at the convent in Mission San Jose. They're variable. I'm told this one's good, so maybe I'm just lucky. They graft about as easily as citrus, though, so raising your own rootstock from seedlings and then inserting scions from local trees can be a solution to guarantee that you have a good cultivar in the yard. Raising the white sapote and the macadamia nut from seed are fairly easy. Here's a whole group of mixed sapote right there in the foreground with macadamia nut trees here behind them. They're parked at the moment underneath my lemon tree. They're hardening off and come out of the greenhouse recently. But it's a pretty simple proposition. And if you wish to maintain specific cultivars, grafting onto these seedlings as rootstocks is probably really one of your best choices here in this region. I also recommend that we use the genetic diversity of seedlings in order to produce local cultivars. If we're constantly relying on material that comes in from other areas, macadamia nut varieties from Australia, for instance, or the Big Island, or sapote that was bred in Mexico or in Southern California, then we actually never develop our own local races. And so working with this genetic variability of planting seeds, if you have the room to do it, is, I think, really, really worth the effort, because we can end up with our own varieties here in the Bay Area.